Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 Origin Continent based on novel. So let's start. Dragon 9 Daoist Monarch was also somewhat puzzled. He believed that his spiritual will had leaped out of the braided cage, and guiding a grand formation of over 10,000 cultivators, should not be much different from that of Luo Feng. Why hasn't Luo Feng Divine Emperor come? Dragon 9 Daoist Monarch asked. I inquired Bo Xiao, and Bo Xiao said Luo Feng Divine Emperor is in seclusion. All communications have been cut off, with no disturbances allowed, explained Divine Emperor Ji Ku. In seclusion. Dragon 9 Daoist Monarch nodded. It seems this primordial prisoner will continue to wreak havoc for some time. Over 10,000 cultivators formed a grand array, looking from afar at the lava prisoner. The lava prisoner glanced in all directions, disdainfully chuckling as the cultivators flew far away, none daring to approach. Despicable and weak cultivators, with my power sealed to this degree, you still can't handle me, ha ha ha, you truly are weak. The cultivators felt quite aggrieved upon hearing this, but indeed, they couldn't do anything, even when joining forces, they couldn't harm it in the slightest. At this moment, in the large-scale primordial hall, Qiuji and Yufeiya, these two high-level primordial life forms, watched this confrontation from afar. Luo Feng went into seclusion. Qiuji slightly frowned. We specifically chose an opponent for him, yet he went into seclusion. He just exchanged for the sky-splitting saber, so naturally, he needs to study it thoroughly. Given his temperament, his seclusion shouldn't last too long, Yufeiya said, let's wait a bit more. As high-level primordial life forms, they had ample patience. Moreover, they were well aware of Luo Feng's growth journey, having spent very little time reaching this stage. How long could a single seclusion last? Luo Feng was focused on the highest level of destructive mysteries contained in the sky-splitting saber. These mysteries made Luo Feng deeply fascinated. This fascination lasted for more than 100 epochs. My life and death Tao is only lacking a sliver of spiritual touch to reach perfection at the half-primordial level. The more grandiose destructive mysteries of the sky-splitting saber can serve as resources for the primordial life and death Tao, Luo Feng thought to himself. The half-primordial life and death Tao, compared to the primordial life and death Tao, was vastly inferior. To comprehend the primordial level life and death Tao, Luo Feng knew he needed to integrate a great many mysteries into it, including the Star Tower blood scale, the mysteries of the sky-splitting saber, which were only part of the resources. Even a complete primordial life and death Tao might not be achievable with just the Star Tower blood scale and the sky-splitting saber mysteries. Breaking laws with force is too distant for me. Since there is such a legend, there must have been cultivators who succeeded, becoming lords because of it, Luo Feng thought. There's no need to think that far ahead, first find that touch of the spirit. Luo Feng immediately exited seclusion. It was only then that he saw the transmissions he had previously cut off. A previously unknown primordial prisoner appeared in the dark sacred realm. Even the massive formation formed by over 10,000 cultivators couldn't handle it. Luo Feng was somewhat surprised and also intrigued. Under the braided cage, he could rarely find an opponent. This primordial prisoner seemed to be a suitable opponent for him. Let's have a look. Luo Feng immediately left the large-scale primordial hall, heading straight to the location documented in the intelligence where the primordial prisoner was. Luo Feng traversed through heaven and earth, each step covering vast distances. In just a few hundred steps, he was already able to see the towering figure of the lava prisoner from afar. It is indeed a high-level primordial life form, Luo Feng immediately discerned. The aura of the other was incredibly terrifying. Only by being sealed and suppressed could he confront it. It has appeared for over 100 epochs, and there are still only about 1,000 cultivators observing from around, Luo Feng glanced over. In the past 100 epochs, during the most gathered times, more than 100,000 cultivators had converged here. However, Dragon 9 Daoist Monarch's formation could at most lead over 10,000 cultivators. Beyond that, it exceeded his range of control. Therefore, even with over 100,000 cultivators gathered, without a unified formation, their power was scattered, still rendering them only capable of wounding the lava prisoner. The lava prisoner, its body too vast and resilient, with exceptionally strong recovery capability. Such a robust body. Luo Feng was thrilled to see his prey. Luo Feng has arrived. Finally here. High above, a silver-haired man and a woman in a fiery red robe had already appeared. They had released this primordial prisoner, waiting for this very day. Luo Feng's strength is too formidable, even among fusion Dao cultivators. Few are so powerful. Under the braided cage, he could find no match. Only by suppressing the power of high-level primordial life could it provide him with adequate pressure. Qiu Ji watched from afar. Perhaps in this battle, his life and death Dao could reach complete perfection. In the future, in our cultivator camp, we might gain another world-level primordial life, Yifei also said. Unlike the innate primordial life camp, in the cultivator camp, the number of world-level primordial life forms was much fewer. The two of them carefully observed the upcoming battle. Let's give it a try first. Luo Feng immediately extended his hand. His arm suddenly expanded, and his palm directly tore open a rift in the world, carrying an infinite terrifying power. It directly crossed through the rift and descended in front of the lava prisoner. The towering lava prisoner was initially sitting there and suddenly saw a giant hand extending through the rift, moving at incredible speed. The lava prisoner immediately sensed something amiss, and promptly swung its arm to block. Boom. This strike of Luo Feng, with a massive body leveraging an energy reserve of 1.2 billion times, under the command of the secret treasure, Undying Heart, unleashed a tremendous power. This strike forcefully hit the lava prisoner's blocking arm, and also impacted into its chest, causing even a depression in the chest of the lava prisoner. A low, deep sound resonated across the world. The towering lava prisoner sitting there was directly sent flying, and while it flew, its lava body carved a deep giant trench into the ground. This formed a colossal canyon stretching billions of kilometers. The lava prisoner lay at the end of this billion-kilometer-long canyon, its chest marked with cracked, molten blood flowing, and it was somewhat dazed at the moment. It had been stunned. Satisfying, truly satisfying. After that strike, Luo Feng only felt an exhilarating thrill. After all, in the dark sacred realm, he had never unleashed himself so freely. Back when he confronted Secret Ruin's Divine Emperor and 14 others, merely by standing there and causing time-space to collapse, without even moving, the enemies were all brought before him, all kneeling. And with his even greater strength now, it was increasingly hard to find a worthy opponent. Luo Feng had to hold back his power when interacting with other cultivators, worried about accidentally bumping or smashing a few to death. Encountering this lava prisoner, Luo Feng could finally unrestrainedly go all out. It was a truly satisfying strike. This primordial prisoner's strength is still a bit lacking. Qiu Ji and Yifei in the high sky also observed the situation. Quickly lift part of the ceiling, increase its power by another fold, urged Yifei. Thanks to the new alliance hierarch's rewards from Absolutely Carefree, Love's Novels Little Jin, and Very. The lava prisoner lay at the end of the massive chasm, somewhat incredulous as he looked at the black-clothed, black-haired man appearing in the distance. A lowly cultivator within the braided cage can wield such power. The lava prisoner couldn't believe it. Immediately, it sensed that the force sealing its physical body, soul, and life core, penetrating every part, suddenly loosened slightly. Even with just a slight release, a portion of the lava prisoner's originally vast and mighty power broke free from the seal, instantly enhancing its strength. The energy coursed through its entire body, and its chest fully recovered. The two guardians of the dark sacred realm have lifted the seal slightly. The lava prisoner, being a formidable presence even among high-level primordial lives, was naturally shrewd and quickly surmised the intentions of the two guardians. They are planning to use me to temper this cultivator. Heh. And still within the braided cage, already this strong. This cultivator's talent and potential are terrifying. Indeed worth the two guardians' trouble. The lava prisoner's heart was boiling with hatred. If there's a chance, kill this cultivator for good. Those two guardians will definitely be furious, and might even be punished by the top ranks of the cultivator camp. The lava prisoner saw no vitality, and only wished to retaliate against the cultivator camp fiercely. If this cultivator knows the clone technique, there's nothing I can do. But, from what I understand, most cultivators in the braided cage don't have avatars. I need to find an opportunity to deliver a lethal blow and eradicate this genius cultivator, the lava prisoner thought. The two guardians treated it as a tool. Yet, a tool can also backlash. These prisoners are originally from the innate primordial life camp, and are our mortal enemies. Now imprisoned, they are filled with resentment. Qiu-Ji, standing high above, watched the scene. The stronger its hatred, the greater threat it poses to Luo Feng. On Luo Feng's path, his life form is extraordinarily vast. Even if the primordial prisoner severely damages Luo Feng, the chances of killing this avatar are slim. Euphaya smiled slightly. Even if this avatar is truly destroyed, it's still beneficial, as it'll surely provoke Luo Feng even more. They hoped this battle would help Luo Feng break through. Boom! Amidst the crevices of heaven and earth, Luo Feng's figure instantly appeared in front of the lava prisoner, with his raised arm slashing down like a blade. The power of life and death cut through all obstacles, even slicing open the membrane of heaven and earth. So fast. The lava prisoner, under the seal, couldn't fly and moved slowly. Facing this attack from Luo Feng, it could only slightly turn its body, taking the blow with its shoulder. This slash from Luo Feng. The lava prisoner's body sunk directly into the earth like a stake, half buried, with only its upper body still above ground. Heh. The lava prisoner grinned, revealing several rows of teeth as sharp as saw blades, interlocking like a jungle. Got stronger. Luo Feng immediately noticed that in the first palm strike earlier, the primordial prisoner was utterly powerless, knocked away without resistance. But now, the more ferocious slash, the lava prisoner withstood it, remaining unscathed. Cultivator, your strength seems a bit weak. The lava prisoner grinned at Luo Feng. If I wasn't sealed, a single finger could crush you. As it spoke, suddenly, 8 arms extended from the lava prisoner's body, attacking simultaneously with 8 rocky arms. Luo Feng vanished like an illusory bubble. I'm too slow. The lava prisoner frowned slightly, as virtual chains permeated its body, making every move sluggish. Even the surprise attack with 8 arms at close range failed to touch this cultivator. Life and death reincarnation. In an instant, over 10 Luo Feng appeared, surrounding the lava prisoner from all sides, including the top, launching consecutive attacks. Whether hand techniques, fist techniques, or claw techniques, each move utilized the half-primordial life and death path, using Luo Feng's arms as weapons, chaining one move after another, even leveraging the previous move's power to enhance the subsequent attacks. The moves were like life and death reincarnation, the vitality growing denser, and the destructive aura becoming increasingly terrifying. Almost in a blink, Luo Feng unleashed tens of thousands of strikes. These tens of thousands of strikes brought immense satisfaction to Luo Feng. Every move mobilized as much of his 12 billion-fold size as possible. Under such extreme pressure, Luo Feng's control over his body began to improve further. The lava prisoner's moves were slower, unable to touch Luo Feng, and in an instant, it took tens of thousands of impacts. Each of these tens of thousands of strikes echoed like the roar of the heavens and earth. Phut, the lava prisoner spat, its mouth flowing with lava-like blood, while its body bore countless scars, disappearing with the flowing lava. Your moves are too weak. The lava prisoner ignored the trickling blood, looking at Luo Feng, 35,000 strikes, and this is all. Oh, the wounds are gone now. Who? Luo Feng's figure flickered, and a cyan-gray spear appeared in his hand. This cyan-gray spear was one of the many life and death secret treasures Luo Feng purchased after arriving in the dark sacred realm. With his current realm, especially after studying the sky-splitting saber, he could draw even more fascination from the spear. Boom! The spear in Luo Feng's hand suddenly thrust forward, trembling slightly as it thrust. Secret patterns emerged brightly along the spear shaft, a terrifying force trying to pierce through everything. The lava prisoner was startled. The spear had already pierced its chest. However, with its towering and massive physique, its body extremely thick, the spear forcefully pierced halfway through the lava prisoner's body, instantly pulling out, and thrusting a second time into the lava prisoner's frame. Yet, during the second thrust, an invisible force within the lava prisoner entangled and hindered Luo Feng from withdrawing the spear. You cannot escape. The lava prisoner's two of its arms at that moment also grasped the spear shaft. Close combat makes it a bit troublesome to kill you. Luo Feng's figure flickered to a distance. Instead of retrieving the long spear, he simply smiled slightly, and the endless blood sea spread out, sweeping across the vast surrounding heavens and earth. In the depths of this endless blood sea, there were two formation diagrams and a black tower. At this moment, Luo Feng activated these 3 life and death Dao secret treasures. Among the 10 or so life and death secret treasures he purchased, these 3 were the most suitable to use alongside the undying blood sea 4 setting formations. Combining 3 grand arrays. Powers aligned. This was now the strongest blood sea array Luo Feng could employ. Boom tilde tilde tilde. The blood sea roiled. Although the lava prisoner was massive, it was engulfed by the blood sea, and layers of formations covered and constrained it. Under the blood sea array, the lava prisoner felt bound in layers. Its 8 arms struggled to move, barely able to unleash about 20 or 30% of its strength. How can the body of this cultivator in the braided cage be so colossal? Such terrifying energy reserves, nearly reaching those of some high-level primordial lives. The lava prisoner was somewhat panicked. Although it was a mighty existence among high-level primordial lives, its power was sealed. In such a sealed state, facing Luo Feng, who wielded numerous secret treasures, it was utterly powerless to resist. My life and death Dao centers on life, with destruction as a supplement. The explosive power in close combat is somewhat lacking, Luo Feng thought, utilizing secret treasures, leveraging formations to amplify the advantages of life forms, is my current strongest state. The lava prisoner appeared in the dark, sacred realm over 100 eras ago. Initially, it attracted a large number of cultivators, but it never won a battle, gradually reducing the number of surrounding cultivators. Currently, there were only about 1,000 cultivators still around. It's Luo Feng Divine Emperor. Luo Feng Divine Emperor took action, and heavily injured that primordial prisoner with one palm. They watched the battle scene excitedly. Finally, a cultivator capable of overpowering this primordial prisoner appeared, suppressing it one-on-one. What a formidable array! They watched closely as the endless blood sea array enveloped the lava prisoner, who struggled and resisted within it, but its efforts were visibly weakened. Back then, Dragon 9 Daoist Monarch, together with over 10,000 cultivators, couldn't threaten this primordial prisoner with their combined array. At one point, even over 100,000 cultivators, with scattered offensives, couldn't threaten the primordial prisoner. Luo Feng, Divine Emperor, can suppress this primordial prisoner all by himself. Is he stronger than hundreds of thousands of cultivators? In the history records of the dark sacred realm, there has never been an invincible existence to such a degree. These observing cultivators discussed, mentioning the 3 routes to invincibility. In the dark sacred realm's history, no half-primordial fusion Dao cultivators were born, just the 2 more common routes. Manifesting one's spiritual will to escape the braided cage, excavating the potential of a world-level primordial bloodline. These 2 kinds of invincible existences were indeed far less imposing than Luo Feng. In reality, these cultivators were unaware. Among fusion Dao cultivators, Luo Feng was very special. He didn't pursue life and death balance, but rather focused on Star Tower blood scale, taking the extreme path, pursuing the immense limits of life forms. While the difficulty of the path increased, the power was indeed much greater. The lava prisoner continued to sink in the endless blood sea, its resistance weakening continuously. Suddenly, it saw a giant pill furnace appear within the blood sea, the furnace lid already open. Not good. The lava prisoner knew it was in trouble, yet it could no longer resist. Capture. Enveloped by the formation, the lava prisoner fell directly into the pill furnace, with the lid closing instantly. Among the 10 or so life and death secret treasures Luo Feng acquired, this pill furnace was the strongest in terms of refining enemies. The endless blood sea returned to calm, and Luo Feng sat cross-legged above it, looking at the pill furnace that floated to the sea's surface. The furnace's exterior was a deep green color, and when Luo Feng activated it, its surface was covered in a secret pattern of green and black intertwining. Sizzle tilde 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 tilde. Within the pill furnace, the lava prisoner was being refined. This cultivator is too troublesome. The lava prisoner originally planned to conceal some of its strength, to finish off that cultivator at a critical moment. But with the blood sea array, it couldn't utilize its power and unknowingly ended up inside this pill furnace. Qiu Ji, let the lava prisoner increase its strength again. Yufei observed everything from the high altitude, frowning. It poses no threat to Luo Feng. If it strengthens further, pollution might emerge. Qiu Ji said. Just fully lock its soul. Even if there's some minor power pollution, the impact is minimal, Yufei remarked. Qiu Ji nodded. Soul pollution was indeed most severe, while slight power pollution was no big deal. Luo Feng is too powerful. I already chose a primordial prisoner with the strongest body, yet I am still forced to release a tiny amount of its true strength. Qiu Ji, holding a command token, cautiously loosened a bit more restraint. This release of restraint already broke a certain limit. The lava prisoner would now truly unleash a tiny portion of its high-level primordial life essence. Even if it was just a sliver, it was still high-level primordial strength. Such power was already polluting to divine emperors. Sitting cross-legged atop the blood sea, Luo Feng, while controlling the life and death pill furnace to refine the lava prisoner inside, suddenly sensed the struggles and resistance within the furnace rapidly increasing. How can this be possible? Luo Feng was astonished. In his view, even if the lava prisoner's strength increased several times, it was unlikely to escape from the pill furnace. But at this moment, the resisting force within the pill furnace shocked Luo Feng. He exerted all his power to suppress it, yet the resisting force escalated dramatically in just a few breaths. Bang! The lid of the furnace was directly pushed open, and a terrifying, dazzling figure burst out from it. The lava prisoner's body had shrunk slightly, covered by a layer of golden flame that even made Luo Feng feel a threat of death. Something's not right. Luo Feng looked up at the figure. You contemptible cultivator, let me show you the true power of high-level primordial life. The lava prisoner smiled evilly and instantly transformed into a golden shadow, striking towards Luo Feng. Luo Feng faced him sternly. With a stretch of his right hand, a grayish-green long spear appeared, and the spear instantly pierced forward, containing the mysteries of life and death. Extinguish. The lava prisoner punched directly, his fist bearing the force to destroy heaven and earth, smashing onto the spear. The power transmitted through the spear to Luo Feng's entire body, causing Luo Feng's body to tremble. His right hand holding the spear silently disintegrated into powder, and his arm broke in multiple places with a crackling sound. Even through the secret treasure, my arm can be broken. Is this the true power of high-level primordial life? Luo Feng instantly speculated, as he had studied various high-level primordial bloodlines deeply. The power high-level primordial life should possess, Luo Feng had contemplated it in his heart. The previous lava prisoner had his strength completely sealed. His movements were slow, only able to use some clumsy force at best. But now, he's using a trace of the true power of high-level primordial life. Luo Feng could also confirm that the opponent was merely using a trace. If too much, he would be done in an instant. There is a qualitative difference in how the forces of both sides manifest. In its presence, there is no distance, no strength or weakness, everything below high-level primordial will be obliterated. With a thought, Luo Feng's body merged into the endless blood sea, and the blood sea formation fully activated. Boom! The golden fire burned on the surface of the lava prisoner, akin to a sun, directly plunging into the endless blood sea. The sea water of the blood sea was quickly eroded and obliterated. Even with the undying heart enhancement, even forming a vast formation, it could still be visibly obliterated. Encountering the lava prisoner, Luo Feng seemed like an icy continent encountering a sun. Luo Feng's icy continent was immensely vast. But the lava prisoner's sun was very small, like a micro-sun. Yet the micro-sun's power is inexhaustible, endlessly burning this icy continent. It's simply not possible to fight. In direct confrontation, even with the secret treasure, I might lose an arm, 10 moves, 8 moves, the body would be torn apart. Using the endless blood sea formation for defense, it will continuously be burned. At this moment, Luo Feng couldn't think of a way to defeat the opponent. Is escape the only option? With a thought, he could differentiate the blood sea into countless avatars, breaking through the rifts of heaven and earth to flee. Why flee? I've cultivated to this level, needing a strong enough opponent. Even if this body is completely obliterated, the avatar in the large primordial hall can recover quickly 1.2 billion times. It's a battle of victory or death. Luo Feng's fighting spirit surged. If the avatar dies, losing over 10 life and death secret treasures. Luo Feng doesn't care. He seeks to truly grasp the half-primordial life and death path. If the Tao is achieved, such secret treasures are insignificant. Bring it on. The endless blood sea surged with monstrous waves, willing to sacrifice the sea water's obliteration, still launching terrifying attacks towards the lava prisoner. Ha ha ha. The lava prisoner was now able to hover in mid-air, letting the sea water transform into a dragon to strike, or chains to imprison, yet it didn't care at all. All sea water would be burned and obliterated by the golden fire. Sizzle, sizzle tilde 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 tilde. On the endless sea surface, a thin layer of golden flame covered some areas, the golden flame burning on the sea surface, continuously obliterating a large amount of blood sea water. In the process of obliteration, not only did the golden flame not deplete, but the obliterated blood sea power was naturally absorbed by the golden flame. It's only due to the sealing suppression that the lava prisoner could only use a trace of fundamental power. HMPH, high-level primordial, to you cultivators in the braided cage, it is an essential disparity. Although it's just a trace of power, your body is quite large. But it will just take more time. The lava prisoner hovered in mid-air. The golden flame eroded and penetrated, also contaminating the endless blood sea. My undying blood sea body has been obliterated by 0.3%, contaminated by 2.1%. Luo Feng was well aware of his current state. Facing the contamination of high-level primordial power, he couldn't resist. After contamination, not only could he not mobilize the blood sea's power, but it also impacts the body's performance. Did we overdo it? In the high sky, the silver-haired man Qiu Ji frowned slightly. The primordial prisoner can mobilize a trace of fundamental high-level primordial power. Even Luo Feng cannot resist it. The woman in the fiery red robe Euphea also frowned watching the battle. The confrontation was one-sided. Although Luo Feng's body was large, he couldn't threaten the opponent in the slightest. Without this trace of high-level primordial power, the primordial prisoner wouldn't be Luo Feng's opponent at all, Euphea said. Luo Feng has reached a terrifying level within the braided cage. Only utilizing high-level primordial power can pose a threat to him. Our choice was correct. Ultimately, it's only power contamination. Qiu Ji also nodded. Even if Luo Feng fails, we can easily help him expel the power contamination. They had no way to deal with soul contamination. That's why they sealed the lava prisoner's soul, life core, an all-powerful means, at this moment, cautiously releasing only a trace of fundamental high-level primordial power. Just this trace, Luo Feng was unable to withstand. The primordial prisoner can fly now. It has become stronger. The over 1,000 watching cultivators were somewhat astonished. For countless ages, they dared to besiege, because the primordial prisoner was relatively slow and couldn't fly. But now it can fly, and its flying speed is extremely fast. It can threaten many cultivators. Luo Feng Divine Emperor is doing his utmost to deal with it. Hopefully, Luo Feng Divine Emperor can successfully slay that prisoner. These cultivators hoped as they also sent the news back. At this moment, some cultivators were already on their way. After all, the battle between Luo Feng and the primordial prisoner still attracted many cultivators. Even the Dragon 9 Daoist monarch and Divine Emperor Ji Ku were hurrying over. But it would take time for them to travel. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The endless blood sea returned to tranquility, stopping its offense. Ha ha ha, stopped. Given up. The lava prisoner stood in mid-air, overlooking the endless blood sea, with strands of golden flames burning on the sea's surface. In the depths of the blood sea, Luo Feng sat cross-legged, ignoring the primordial prisoner. My body has disintegrated by 3.1%, not a high ratio. But the polluted part of the body has reached 59%. Luo Feng felt that the endless blood sea was starting to become uncontrollable, beginning to resist. With 59% of the body polluted, the resistance was wanton, greatly decreasing the efficiency of controlling the remaining body strength. The power drastically reduced, Luo Feng ceased his attack on the lava prisoner. It's useless to attack. The pollution is rapidly escalating. If this continues, this avatar is done for. This was a colossal avatar carrying numerous life and death secret treasures, with a massive 12 billion energy reserve. The disintegrated part wasn't much at the moment, but the pollution ratio was too high, and increasing swiftly. Even a trace of high-level primordial power. The power in this braided cage, even with a full 12 billion perfect divine body energy reserve, was short-term polluted to such an extent. Legend says, newly breaking through high-level primordial life, with no restriction on strength, causes far more severe pollution, even able to pollute the soul consciousness. Luo Feng thought, but as long as the spiritual will jumps out of the braided cage, it can suppress pollution, even expel all pollution. Yuan Xiong Palace Master had encountered a newly breakthrough high-level primordial life, and even their soul consciousness was polluted. This is merely some high-level primordial power pollution. It should be easier to expel. Suppress it. Expel it. Luo Feng paid no attention to the lava prisoner, focusing all his spiritual power on targeting the pollution. The pollution was ongoing, and the golden flames were burning away sections of life power. Suppress. Expel. Under the dual threat of pollution and disintegration, at the moment Luo Feng concentrated all his spiritual power to resist, he vaguely sensed a tiny change within the entire mind-consciousness system. Life has inherent instincts. Every life unit in Luo Feng's massive body possessed extraordinary life spirituality, and life instinct was even stronger. At this moment, countless life units, under the threat of pollution and disintegration, allowed life instinct to override other instincts, making them unite more perfectly, and a slight change occurred in the operation of the mind-consciousness system. This slight change was instantly perceived by Luo Feng. I found it. Under enormous threat, the slight change in the mind-consciousness system allowed Luo Feng to glimpse a more profound operational method. What Luo Feng had been seeking was just a trace of spiritual touch. A touch that could make the operation of the mind system more perfect. This kind of touch, once experienced. With Luo Feng's level, he could firmly remember the mysterious and complex operational way of the entire mind-consciousness system under this state. Boom. At this moment, Luo Feng actively propelled the mind-consciousness system according to this operational method. Once propelled, Luo Feng could feel that every unit of life's spiritual power in the endless blood sea was more efficiently unified, and the huge consciousness net rapidly expanded, intertwined step by step, with each consciousness thread immensely strong, eventually forming a complete mind consciousness, expanded to unprecedented heights. Boom. Luo Feng's spiritual will suddenly broke through that layer of braided cage. Jumping out of the braided cage, achieving grand freedom. The spiritual will only felt relieved and exhilarating. The spiritual will that leaped out of the braided cage naturally covered the entire body, perfectly controlling the whole body. The pollution brought by that trace of golden fire power was relatively low, and in the face of the will that jumped out of the braided cage, all pollution was expelled, not a trace could remain. Ha ha ha. Luo Feng's heart was filled with endless joy. At this moment, the mind-consciousness system perfectly governed the vast blood sea body. The spiritual will leaping out of the braided cage controlled the whole body with ease, feeling that only 1 or 2 points of spiritual power were needed. In handling such a physical body to display exquisite techniques, it was estimated that 10 or 8 secret treasures could still be fully deployed. My life and death Tao, under the braided cage, finally reached perfection. Luo Feng smiled, feeling indescribably elated. This video will end here.